and a big welcome to the Fast Forward webinar series. Before we start today, I'd just like to acknowledge country. With respect to Aboriginal protocol, and out of recognition that its campuses occupy their traditional lands, Western Sydney University acknowledges the Darug, Tharawal, Cabrogal and Wiradjuri peoples and thanks them for the support of its work in their lands. Now, I'm going to take you on a whirlwind tour of our Parramatta South campus. Enjoy. Awesome, so I hope you enjoyed that 30-minute snapshot. My name's Barbara and I'm the Fast Forward Project Officer that takes care of our wonderful Parramatta High Schools. And today, joining me in the workshop, I've got my wonderful colleague, Francesca. I'm going to get her to say hello and introduce the rest of the team.
Thank you, Barb. Hi, my name is Francesca. I'm one of the Fast Forward Project Officers and I take care of the lovely schools in the Blacktown region. As you can see, we have 4 fabulous project officers who unfortunately can't be here today, but that's okay. You'll get to meet them throughout our Fast Forward webinar series. And up on the top left, we have our awesome boss, Jim.
Thank you, Francesca. So today's workshop is called Time's Up, and it's all about giving you some tips and strategies to help you manage your time better. We're going to start off with a little quiz to see just how much you know about study and time management.
Awesome, thank you, Barb. So a quick true or false quiz. Let's get started. If you spend more time studying, you will get better marks. True or false? This is actually false. So it doesn't matter how much time you spend studying on how many hours, it's actually how you spend them. So remember to study smart. A-grade students don't ever have any fun or free time. Yes, this is actually false. So the more balanced you are, the better you will perform academically. Students study better under pressure and at the last minute. This is actually false. So sometimes we think we work under pressure and at the last minute, but if you start doing your work a little bit earlier, you'd be surprised at how better you'll perform. You don't have to make any notes, all the work is already summed up in the textbook. This is actually false. So taking notes actually allow you to memorize sometimes the content in the workbook, but actually when you put things into your own words, you get to understand the content a little bit better. We take better notes by writing them down than typing on a computer. This is actually true. So when you write things down by hand, it actually processes in your brain a little bit better than when you're typing on a computer or whether you copy and paste off Wikipedia. So I hope you enjoyed this quiz. I'm now going to hand it over to Barbara.
Thank you, Kix. So time management, what is it? It's quite simply the management of ourselves and the tasks that we have to do. And we all know that good time management helps us to achieve the goals that we have in life, and poor time management leads us to lots of stress in our lives. So it sounds quite simple, doesn't it? Manage ourselves, manage the tasks that we have to do. So why is it then that so many of us actually struggle with time management? Well, perhaps it's distractions, maybe things like social media. The good news about those, though, if you find those big distractions, is that there are apps available which will block your social media. You can get them to be blocked on your phone and also on your devices. There are lots of free ones. We've got some up there: Freedom, Focus at Will, Rescue Time. Check them out. You can set a timer so you can decide you might want them blocked for an hour while you do your assignment. One of the other things that often stops us getting our jobs done is extracurricular activities. Now, these are really important for our work-life balance. And so we need to have them there, but we need to limit the time because they can often take up too much of our time. Another one is study habits. You might have really genuine thoughts that you would like to study really hard and do well, but you just don't know how to do it. You haven't got the right techniques, and that can stop you. Or you might be like my friend Homer there, who just thinks, you know what, we've got plenty of time. Let's just do it later. And that leads nicely into one of the key things that often does stop many of us from getting our jobs done, and that's procrastination. So put your hand up if you've ever been guilty of procrastination. Yep, I certainly have. So let's have a look at what happens here. So when you get an assignment, what do you plan to do? Usually it goes like this. Your assignment's been given, you start slowly, you do a little bit of work in the first week, then the second or third week, you might step things up a little bit, do some more work on that assignment. As you get closer to the deadline, you step things up again. You might have a few heavy days, but the outcome is that everything gets done. Your assignment is handed in on time and the stress levels stay low. That's what you plan to do. Now let's have a look at often, if you're a procrastinator, what you actually do. Yep, sure enough, everything's left till the last minute. So why does it happen? Well, in all of our brains, we have a little guy called the rational decision maker. Now, the rational decision maker will make choices that are good for us, like, I really should start my assignment now, or I need to study for my maths test tomorrow. The problem is, if we're a procrastinator, we've got another little guy sitting in our brain, and he's called Dylan. He's the little monkey there. And every time the rational decision maker says, I should do some work, I should start my assignment, Dylan doesn't like that plan. And he says, nah, do it later, not now. So he'll take you off to spend an hour or two on Netflix or to chat with your friends. And before you know it, the whole day's gone. So Dylan is definitely not the guy that you want at the steering wheel when you need to get your study done. The good news though, if you're a procrastinator and Dylan's sitting in your brain, is that you've got a guardian angel. And that's this guy, the panic monster. Now, the panic monster tends to show up whenever there's a deadline due. So around 24 to 48 hours before your assignment's due, in steps panic monster. What happens when he puts in an appearance? Well, all of a sudden, Dylan gets the fright of his life. He takes off the nearest coconut tree. The rational decision maker in you gets a fright as well, and it spurs you into action. So all of a sudden, after doing no work for 3 weeks on your assignment, you can miraculously get it all done in the last 24 to 48 hours. Now, sure, you might get that assignment handed in on time, but what you probably won't get is the best mark that you're capable of. So you're selling yourself short if you are caught in that trap of procrastination. So, good news though, there are some techniques and strategies that you can use to stop Dylan and the panic monster showing up. We're going to run through these today. The first of those is think big, start small, act now. We're also going to look at prioritize it, schedule it, and setting smart goals. So the first of those is think big, start small, act now. Imagine if somebody told you you have to run a marathon. Now the chances are that you're not going to get your sports shoes out, hit the pavement and do the full 26 Ks today. But what you are capable of doing today is getting your sports shoes out, trying them on and seeing if they're comfortable. Then you can decide for yourself, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start walking around the block. I'll do 1 lap. And the day after that, I'm going to do 2 laps around the block. And on the third day, I'm going to jog around the block 3 times. The great thing about taking these small steps is that they're achievable. And you find that when you've jogged around the block 3 times, you feel pretty good. You've achieved what you set out to do, and you think, you know what, I'm feeling good, I'll keep going. So when you get your study and when you get your assignments or you have your maths test due, it's exactly the same principle. If you break that work down into small steps that you know you can achieve, then you're more likely to end up with the goal that you want to. The important thing though is for each one of those small steps that you set, it might be, I'm going to look at the outline for my assignment, I'm going to understand the instructions, then I'm going to dot point the things I'm going to put into my introduction, then I'm going to write my introduction, and so forth. The important thing is you make sure that you set a deadline for each one of those small steps, because without a deadline, Dylan will step in and tell you, nah, do it later. And then in comes the panic monster. So make sure you set a deadline for each small step. I'm going to hand you back over to Kix now, and she'll take you through the next strategy.
Awesome. Thank you, Barb. So now that you have met the panic monster and you know how it attacks, we're actually going to go through the importance of establishing priorities. So we're actually going to use this matrix here to help you understand. So as you can see, there are 4 different quadrants. So we're actually going to name these quadrants. Quadrant number 1 is the procrastinator. So these are tasks of someone that put things off until they become urgent or end up working in crisis mode. So how you can stop this is by reducing the stress by not putting things off, unless there are things that happen out of the ordinary and you must be dealt with. For example, the house is on fire. Quadrant number 3. So this person is the yes man. So even though this person may be loaded up with things that are important to others but not to them, they continue to say yes. So how you stay away from being the yes person is realizing that it's okay to say no. Quadrant number 4. Sometimes we call people in this quadrant the slacker. So no activity is important or urgent. Waste time in excess and lack of responsibility. So these are tasks that are always in the back burner. Sometimes this is when we want to call up our friends or play video games and so forth. But also remember that those distractions can be good sometimes, but you must limit it. Quadrant number 2. So this person is the prioritizer. So this person and the tasks in here are that they plan ahead, get things done ahead of time and do first things first, but also allows time for real relaxation. So this is where you should be spending your time. Okay, so now we're going to actually move into a quick activity. So as you can see, there are different tasks on the right-hand side of the screen. And what I would like you to do is allocate each task to a quadrant. You can either put the numbers next to the task, or you can put the task around which quadrant you think it belongs to. So pause this video and complete this task. Awesome, welcome back. I hope you guys enjoyed this activity. We're actually going to go through the different tasks and what quadrants we've placed each of them into according to where we think it should go. So in quadrant number 1, we have an assignment due tomorrow, take clothes off the washing line and clean my room. So these tasks are ones that need to be done immediately. However, you can actually change that and put it into the prioritizer if you start your assignment earlier, or if you decide to clean your room more consistently instead of waiting for it to get uncontrollably messy, and also taking your clothes off the washing line in case it rains. All right. Quadrant number 3, we have placed a text from Sam, emails from friends who want help with an assignment. So as I said earlier, even though you may be loaded with all your assessments to do and your good old mate hasn't started theirs, it's still very important that you understand how to say no, but also delegate and push back. Quadrant number 4, we have placed go shopping for a formal dress, buy new shoes for sport, check Instagram and play video game. So as you can see, these are more likely big distractions. So like we said, relaxation is important, but not in excess. And quadrant number 2, the prioritizer, we have put study for the maths test next week, go for a run, and ring grandma to say happy birthday tomorrow. So this is someone who plans ahead and schedules everything in, and this is where you'd like to spend more of your time. So now I'm actually going to hand it over to Barbara to let you know another strategy.
Thanks, Kix. So the third one of our strategies for managing your time is schedule it. It's a really good idea to have a weekly planner or diary. There are lots of templates available online, and we've also provided you with one in your resources too. Now, onto that planner for your week, you need to put everything that is fixed. So things like your meal times need to go on there, the travel time to school, the time that you actually take at school, and any commitments that you have that are fixed, including your work commitments, need to go onto that calendar or that weekly planner. The other things to make sure that you include are things like your extracurricular activities, your sport, your dance, etc. They need to be there because they're important activities and they help you to keep the balance between study and relaxation. Other important things to make sure that you have on there are your family commitments, things like lunch with grandma, because they're important and we don't want to miss those. And down the bottom, there's a really important one. Check the text from friends. Now that's one of the distractions that Kika was talking about that often goes into quadrant number 4. But the great news for you is that it's okay to have them in your timetable as long as you remember to limit the time that you spend on them. That's the key. Right, I'm going to hand you back to Kika for the next of our strategies.
All right, our final strategy. So this awesome acronym you may have seen around school, it emphasizes that you are more likely to achieve goals that are SMART. So let's get started. The S stands for specific. This is where you identify exactly what your goal is. For example, I want to read chapter 5. So not being too vague, but identifying exactly what that goal is. M is for measurable. So measurable is when you want to be able to make notes on chapter 5. So something that you want to do and being able to understand how long it will take you to complete. And A stands for achievable. So it's also important when you're setting a goal that you are honest with yourself about what you can accomplish. Also remember to take into consideration your commitments and your current commitments and other responsibilities. And it also has to be something you want to do. For example, you want to complete and make notes on chapter 5.
Awesome, and R stands for realistic. So it's okay to stretch yourself with your goals, but you have to make sure that realistically you can achieve them. So if you said to yourself, I'm going to read 6 chapters of my English book at recess, that's unlikely to happen. But if you said, I'm going to read the first 2 pages of my English book at recess, that's an achievable goal. It's realistic. And T stands for time frame. That's a very important one. And it means that each of those goals that you set, whether it's large or small, needs to have a deadline. Because what happens if we don't have deadlines and we don't set those limits is that Dylan takes the wheel again and the panic monster steps in, and we definitely don't want that. Awesome, so we're almost at the end of our workshop on time management. I'm going to leave you with a final thought. Imagine if someone deposited $86,400 into your bank account and they told you that you could not carry any of that money over until the next day. At midnight, all of the unused money in that account would be deleted. What would you do? Well, chances are you would want to withdraw every cent of that $86,400 so that you could use it. And the good news, guys, is that each one of us has a bank account like this, and it's called time. So at the beginning of each day, 86,400 seconds is deposited into our time bank account. And it's up to us to use the strategies that we've been through today and manage our time wisely so that we can achieve those short and long-term goals in study and in the other areas of our lives. So if you do that and you apply all of those strategies, hopefully you're going to be a bit better at time management than my friend here.
Oh, that is absolutely hilarious. I hope you enjoyed our Time's Up webinar today. Please continue to keep in touch through our social media channels. Links are as listed on the screen. So we will see you guys shortly. Bye for now.